Welcome to another episode of the Defiant Explainers, where we bring you the latest innovations in decentralized finance. In a world where traditional banks and exchanges are losing trust, DeFi continues to break new ground and challenge the status quo. So that's why today we're exploring Metronome Synth, a multi-collateral and multi-synthetic protocol that's looking to change the way users trade and farm digital assets in the DeFi ecosystem. But before we dive into Metronome and see how it simplifies yield farming and helps users maximize their returns, let's quickly touch on the significance of synthetic assets and their growing impact on the DeFi landscape. Let's get started. Now, let's take a moment to understand the synthetic landscape in the world of DeFi. You've probably heard about liquid staking, the solution to the problem of asset lockups in proof-of-stake blockchain networks. Liquid staking allows you to unlock the liquidity of your staked assets by issuing a token equivalent in value. An example is Lido Finance's ST-ETH or staked ETH. This means you can use staked ETH just like ETH in various dApps, even as collateral for loans. But are liquid staking tokens and synthetic tokens the same thing? Not exactly. Synthetic tokens are specifically created by smart contracts to track and mimic the price of an underlying asset, which can be a commodity, stock, or crypto, without actually holding the asset. Synths provide exposure to the price movement of the underlying asset, which gives users the ability to trade and even hedge with more flexibility. For example, let's say you want to bet on the price of Bitcoin without actually holding any. Well, you could use a synthetic Bitcoin minted using collateralized ETH. The price would in that case be pegged to the real Bitcoin. This same principle can be applied to other assets like gold or even the S&P 500 index. So in much simpler terms, when you use synths, you can short or long the asset's value without actually owning it. And that's the power of synthetic tokens in DeFi. Now that we've cleared up the synthetic landscape, let's dive into what Metronome Synth is doing differently. So in the world of synths, the early bird truly does catch the worm, and Synthetix was one of the first pioneers in this space, allowing users to mint synths with various underlying assets, and they amassed an impressive $443.8 million of TVL. Enter Metronome Synth. Since its launch in January this year, it's already amassed over $5.5 million in TVL, even though it was still in beta. And as of April 18th, it has transitioned to full-scale production, following a successful smart contract audit and testing. Brought to you by the Block DeFi team, its roots go back to the earlier Metronome project, which raised a cool $12.1 million in ICO funding back in 2018. With a mission to unlock limitless liquidity, Metronome Synth allows DeFi users to deposit various cryptos as collateral and to mint synths. These can range from stablecoins like DAI and USDC to leading cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But wait, because there's more. Liquid staking tokens can also be used as collateral. Since March 2023, staked ETH has evolved into Vast ETH thanks to its integration with Vesper Finance protocol. This means that DeFi users can now deposit their Vesper Lido staked ETH, abbreviated to Vast ETH, into Metronome to mint an array of synths. Metronome synths sport the MS prefix, such as MSBTC, MSETH, and MSUSD. Now, you can mint each of these by depositing your preferred collateral, keeping in mind their specific conditions. But before we move on to our walkthrough, let me quickly share some insider info. If you're into yield farming, you definitely don't want to miss out on this, so stay tuned for the walkthrough where we'll go through some of the features Metronome has to offer. Now, picture this. You are a die-hard Bitcoin maxi who holds only BTC, but you want to take advantage of various DeFi protocols. What do? First, you can deposit your BTC into one of the BTC to WBTC protocols like BitGo or Kyber Network. These protocols mint wrapped BTC or WBTC equal to the value of your deposited BTC. Now, with WBTC in your wallet, you can connect it to the Metronome Synth app where you'll instantly see a clear overview of the potential collaterals to mint synths. Pretty straightforward. All right, so what about the numbers? Well, currently the deposit limit for WBTC is 311 Bitcoins with a collateralization ratio of 80% and an 18% liquidation penalty. So, to mint one MSETH from Metronome Synth, you'll need to deposit at least 1.2 Vast ETH, and that's to maintain the minimum 80% collateralization ratio. But be careful, if the value of your MSETH collateral falls below 80%, Metronome Synth will liquidate it and you'll incur an additional 18% penalty. And wait, because there's something very important to consider here, and that's slippage. You see, when swapping synths, the market liquidity can cause synthetic token prices to deviate from their expected prices. With other dApps, this could result in getting only 9.5 WBTC per 10 MSBTC. However, on Metronome Synth, you can actually swap synths with zero slippage, which can result in significant savings. So now that we've covered the synthetics landscape and figured out how to deposit crypto as collateral to mint our synths, let's move on to smart farming before diving into the Metronome walkthrough. Now, smart farming is the advanced yield looping engine built right inside Metronome Synth, and this feature not only maximizes returns for users, but it also unlocks increased utility for yield-bearing tokens. As we know, in DeFi, yield farming is a staple. By providing liquidity to protocols like Curve or Uniswap, you can earn trading fees, just like interest in a traditional bank. What if you could boost those gains? That's where smart farming comes in by using synths to supercharge your position. Now imagine depositing $1,000 worth of USDC stablecoin into Vespa Finance's USDC pool and receiving VA-USDC tokens as yield-bearing tokens. You would then have two options. One, you can deposit the VA-USDC that you just received either directly into Metronome Synth as collateral to generate a synthetic asset, or deposit your VA-USDC directly into smart farming. And here's where it gets really interesting. Smart farming allows you to customize your yield loop based on your risk preference. Simply put, Metronome Synth mints MSUSD, swaps it on a DEX for USDC, and then deposits it back into Vespa Finance pool. This system increases your initial APY while your total position remains safely over-collateralized. As the yield farming period ends, the farmer in this scenario withdraws their earnings and repays the borrowed USDC plus some interest. From the gained profits, farmers can then pay off the synth debt as well, which on Metronome Synth is just a 1% synth balance fee. I can increase my APY and remain over-collateralized? Great, but what about the user interface? Well, you'll be glad to hear that Metronome's smart farming simplifies the process by removing the need to swap between multiple dApps. This makes the user experience simpler and saves on gas fees. All you need to do is to set your yield loop amount on your synth, and Metronome's smart farming protocol takes care of the rest. So by using looped smart farming positions, you can optimize your yield, but be sure to keep an eye on your estimated APY potential and monitor your loop health in real time while your earnings potential gets supercharged. All right, now let's dive into a live demo of Metronome's smart farming. In this walkthrough, we'll be using Vespa positions as collateral for productive yield sourcing. Then we'll generate synths, swapping to more productive assets before bundling everything into smart farming, while using staked ETH pool as an example. And if you're following along, be aware that this can be a gas-intensive process, so make sure you have enough ETH in your wallet to avoid repeating the steps and spending more than you need to on gas. Now first you have to connect your wallet to the Metronome Synth app, and you'll be greeted with a clear overview of the possible collaterals on the left with synth assets to mint on the right. So we click on Connect Wallet, select MetaMask, and we're in. Step number 2 is connecting our wallet to Vespa Finance, and we'll do that to deposit our staked ETH. Now, to use Vespa positions as collateral, we have to start by depositing assets such as ETH or USDC into the Vespa Finance app. So we head over to app.vespa.finance, we connect our wallet, and then we can select the assets that we want to deposit. Here you'll see a variety of pools you can deposit your assets into, such as ETH, USDC, or staked ETH. Each pool does offer different APYs and potential yields, and we find the staked ETH pool and deposit the desired amount of staked ETH tokens into it. Now beware, if you don't have staked ETH tokens in your wallet, you can stake Ether on stake.lido.fi. Once your staked ETH deposit is confirmed on Vespa, you'll receive yield-bearing tokens, which are called Vast ETH in this case. These tokens represent your staked assets and the yield you're accumulating from the staked ETH pool. Perfect. And once we have our Vast ETH tokens in hand, we're ready to use them as collateral in the Metronome Synth app and begin our smart farming journey. So let's head back over to Metronome Synth and we'll select the collateral tab. Now we can choose the collateral that we want to deposit, which in this case is Vast ETH. We can input the amount and click on deposit. All right, now once we have our Vast ETH tokens in hand, we're ready to use them as collateral within the Metronome Synth app and actually begin our smart farming journey. And once the Vast ETH is deposited, you can now mint synthetic assets using it as collateral. For instance, we can go over to the Synthetics tab and select MS ETH or any of the other supported synths based on the collateral's value. And once we decide which one to generate, we enter the desired amount and click on Generate. After minting your chosen synth, you'll see it on the right-hand side under Synth Assets, and you can repay and withdraw very simply as well. All you have to do is click the repay button on the right-hand side of the screen. Select the desired amount, you can select max for example, and withdraw all of your synthetic assets right away. And now that you've successfully minted or generated a synthetic asset and learned how to repay and withdraw, we can move on to the next step, which is smart farming. So to maximize your yield potential, it's time to use the smart farming function, and we can click on smart farming on the left-hand side of the screen. Now here you'll be able to deposit your VAST ETH from your wallet as collateral. So we'll click on choose collateral. Select the VAST ETH from our wallet and input the desired amount, which, bearing in mind, should be about 80% of the maximum. Now next, we can customize the yield loop based on our risk preference. So I'll set mine to 1.2 for this example. And bear in mind, the higher the loop leverage, the greater the potential yield, but also the higher the risk. So on the Metronome website, you might see loop leverage being referred to as loopage. And finally, we can select a slippage tolerance as well. And what's really handy is that Metronome gives you a health factor rating, so you can easily visualize whether or not you're close to liquidation. And once you've set your desired loop settings, you just click on the confirm button. We approve the transaction, and Metronome will essentially take care of the rest behind the scenes by looping the deposited assets back into the Vespa finance pool. And in doing so, it increases your initial APY while keeping your position safely over-collateralized. But do remember that we're using the staked ETH pool as an example here. The same process actually applies to the other supported assets in the Metronome Synth app as well. And that's it. We've now successfully used Metronome Synth's smart farming feature with the staked ETH pool. And you can watch your yield grow and optimize your yield farming investments. But remember that it's good practice to always monitor the health of your Metronome collateral position and stay informed on the latest updates in the DeFi world. So make sure to subscribe and get all the updates you need on that as well. Now, before we wrap up, let's quickly acknowledge the team behind Metronome Synth, because these veteran developers have contributed to major DeFi projects like Spacechain, Block, and Vespify. The core team includes Jeff Garzik, Jordan Kruger, Matthew Rozak, Manoj Patidar, and Zane Huffman. Metronome Synth smart contracts have been fully audited by reputable firms Halborn and QuantStamp. By providing zero slippage between synths and seamless integration with Vespa Finance, Metronome is attempting to make DeFi more accessible and user-friendly. So that's it from us on Metronome Synth. Drop a comment if anything is unclear. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more DeFi insights, and happy farming, everyone.